What does Jesus expect from us? I'm Amy from the Lakes, and today we're taking a look at Matthew chapter 25. Here at the Lakes, we read a chapter a day of the Bible, and right now we're on Matthew 25. I'd encourage you to read it for yourself. There's some great stuff in there. So this chapter 25, comes right after Jesus has spent a lengthy time talking about both the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of the age when he would return in his glory for the second coming. And this chapter follows that discussion that he was having with his disciples. And he tells three stories as to how his people are to behave as we prepare for his second coming. The first story is the parable of the 10 virgins. And it's a story that 10 young women go out of the city gates to meet a bridegroom. And as they wait, it takes longer than they expect, and they fall asleep. And 5 of the young women have taken extra oil for their lamps, and 5 have not. And around midnight, when the bridegroom finally comes, 5 of the young women are disappointed to find that they can no longer light their lamps. And the other 5 who had brought extra oil trimmed their wicks, relit their lamps, and entered into the city gates with the bridegroom in celebration. And so what are we to learn? What does Jesus expect from us? And what are we to learn from this story? Well, what I take is that he wants us to be well prepared for his second coming. We should spend time in his word and in relationship with him as we await his second coming, that we should stay vigilant and that we should be ready for his return. And we can also do this by staying in regular relationship with other believers. The next story is called the parable of the talents. And it's this story about a master who is preparing for a long journey. And he calls 3 of his servants to him. And he gives each one of them a portion of money. And they are to use it while he is gone. Upon his return, he calls his servants back to him to account for how they've used his money in his absence. And the first servant has doubled the amount of money that he was given, and the master praises him. The second servant also, though given a smaller amount, also has doubled the investment that the master gave him. The third servant has done nothing but bury the money that he was given in fear of the master's harshness. And as he anticipated, the master is not pleased with how he has used the resources that he was given, and he is punished. So what are we to learn from this parable? Well, I think that we're to learn that God expects us to invest wisely in his kingdom. We are to use what we've been given and invest it in such a way that it yields a return for the kingdom of God. So what material possessions have you been given that you could leverage for a return for God's kingdom? Or maybe you're low on material possessions, but you are higher in talents and intelligence. How could you leverage those things for God's kingdom? What unique skills or abilities has God given you? He desires that you use them and invest them in order to leverage a return for his kingdom. And the final story that Jesus tells in this chapter is the parable of the sheep and the goats. And he talks about how at the end of the age, all of humanity will be drawn unto him, and then there will be this great separation of the sheep and the goats. And the sheep will say, how is it that we are here on this side? And this great verse is, I just want to read this. It says, "The king will say to those on his right," that is the sheep, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Jesus expects, as we wait for his return, that we will serve others, particularly those whom society has left off to the fringes, the least of these. And when we do that, he says that it is like we are serving Jesus himself. So what does Jesus expect from us? Well, these three stories tell us three things. He expects us to be prepared for his return. He expects us to invest what he's given us in his kingdom. And he expects us to serve others with humility. How do you stay prepared as you await God's kingdom? How have you invested in his kingdom, what he's already given you? Or what does it look like for you to serve others? I would love to hear about it. Please comment in the comment box below and encourage others as well.